Today, Reva joins us. She's a longtime Michael Jackson fan, hailing from New York City. She's met Michael Jackson multiple times. She's got lots of stories to share, so I can't wait to get into this.
It was 14 years since I was 7.
I waited the whole
There are no words to describe it. No words. I just feel so good right now. That's all I can say.
Hey, Reva, welcome to the show.
Hi, MJ fangirl.
Good to
Thank
see
you
you
for
too.
having me on. Yes.
Reva and I have been longtime friends. We go way, way back. Probably close to like over 10 years now, right?
Right. Yes.
Yes. So Reva knows me before I was quote unquote MJ fangirl.
Yes.
So
Exactly. Yeah.
we've got a lot of history. And when I started the channel back up and this Club 30s podcast, I wanted to talk to real life fans and not only just discuss Michael as an artist, but discuss like how it was interacting with him as a human being. So thank you for joining this discussion today.
You're welcome.
So first, tell us, how long have you been a Michael Jackson fan? Like,
Oh
what's your
my
story?
Oh, my story. I've been a Michael Jackson fan for, oh my God, for almost my entire life since I was a little girl. Actually, I became a fan of Michael when I was 7 years old. Originally, I was born in Trinidad and Tobago, so that's where I was first introduced to Michael Jackson. My my parents and my home back, in Trinidad when I was young, we always used to listen to music. So, and there was we had the Jackson 5 45 vinyls, from when they were young with Michael and his brothers. But the interesting thing about that is how I became a fan of Michael was when there was a television program called, I feel like I'm dating myself, but I'm not even gonna, um, with Casey Kasem. For those who are like 80s, who know who Casey Kasem was. He was like a major really famous disc jockey, and he had a show called America's Top 10 or America's Top 40 that used to show like on
Yes,
Saturday mornings and
I
stuff like
remember
that.
that.
So here I am on a Saturday, I think it was a Saturday morning, and it has to be a Saturday morning because I was home from school, and America's Top 40 was on, and Michael came, the video, Rock With You came on, where Michael is wearing the sequin outfit, all sparkly and everything like that. So this was like from the Rock With You video. No, sorry. Rock With You video, yes, from the Off the Wall album. So I was like, ever since I saw that video and I saw Michael, that's the moment I fell in love with Michael Jackson. I was like, wow, who is this person? And I didn't really connect that this is the same Michael Jackson who was with the Jackson 5, if that makes sense. It was like,
Oh,
yeah, I know it sounds weird because it's like you have little Michael and then you have all of a sudden it's big Michael. So I didn't really connect the two back then at that particular, at that age. I know it sounds weird, but
no, but Michael
go
said that too. Like people would say little Michael Jackson for the Jackson 5, like they had a hard time. Like I guess it's that transition from child star to adult star.
Well, sure. Exactly, exactly. So even though I was hearing his records like playing in my home, it's still that connection. Like, oh my God, I was like fascinated. Like, who is Michael? Like, who is this person? I literally fell in love with Michael Jackson at 8, 7, and then I was from America's Top 40 with Casey Kasem. That was my introduction to Michael Jackson, and ever since that moment, with them, I don't know if it was the sparkly outfit or it was just his aura, and to see that here is this beautiful black man, I was just head over heels over Michael Jackson, and ever since that moment, that's when it was like, okay, everything just catapulted from there. I was in love with Michael Jackson. I became fascinated with him. I wanted to know so much more about him. And, and I used to travel during the summers from Trinidad to New York for the summer. So that just like, Michael was just part of my world, and I think that probably even wanted me to even become to live in America. Like, here's Michael Jackson, and and how I connected it was Mike. I feel like I'm all over the place, but not really. I just want to give like a sense of it.
No, this is great.
Uh,
This is great.
um, you know, he, was like, I would say like from the 80s, like 83, 84, like 82, 83, when he really catapulted. That's when I knew, like, oh my God, this is the Michael Jackson from the Jackson 5, like with his brothers, and seeing them in their adult, as adults, and being like on the magazine covers and stuff like that. That's when I connected that, oh, this is the same Michael Jackson who was singing
Yeah.
on the J5 records, the Motown records. So yeah, ABC and the Love You Save and all of that. So yeah,
And
but I'm a
it,
Michael Jackson fan, and it
right.
was I was 7 years old.
That's amazing. So basically, you were a kid when you became a fan, and
Yes,
like many of us, me included, that like fascination with Michael Jackson continued throughout adulthood, right?
yes,
And when, I guess, when was the moment? Because I can't imagine it, right? Because I mean, I was born in '87, so I grew up like in my teenage years in the early 2000s, but you were around in like the '90s, right? Like when
yeah,
he
the
was actually out
80s,
and about, '80s and '90s?
yeah, 90s, yes, yes, yes. Without
S
giving away my age, but
Right, right,
during
right.
the
I
80s, but during the 80s, yes, during the height of the Thriller, um, the Thriller Pandemonium and all of that, Thriller Mania, and throughout then and the 90s, Dangerous, like from Thriller, Bad, Dangerous. So yeah,
Yes, you experienced it all,
yes.
and I have to ask you because this is what everybody's probably excited to hear. What was the first? Okay, so when was the first time you decided, "Okay, I'm gonna go and try to see Michael Jackson. I'm gonna try to go and meet him." What was your
I
first
wanted, I
event?
don't know. I think I wanted to see him in concert in 19, like during the Victory Tour. And I was here on vacation during that time, with my family and stuff like that. So, fully immersed in American pop culture. Here's this young girl from the Caribbean, but I was totally Americanized at that point. I think it had to do with a lot of things, but just having those experiences coming here in the summer. The Victory Tour was um, was in full action during that point, but couldn't get tickets to go and see him because the tickets were sold out. So that's when I wanted to see,
Ah,
of course, to see Michael. I had the leather pants, I had the little Michael buttons and stuff like that. So, that's when I knew I wanted to see Michael. And even through the bad tour, it did not work out for me as well, to get tickets, and just knowing how to navigate that, because Michael was so huge during that time. Like, tickets were like, so I know people were fortunate to get, and those who were able to get were very fortunate to get those, but it
yes.
just didn't work. I guess it wasn't the timing for me then. But I've always wanted, one of my goals was to see him in concert, to see him perform, and to possibly meet him. Like every black young girl, I'm going to use black because I know all girls, girls, women of all ages love Michael, from toddlers to a woman in their god 80s or whatever, from children. All we wanted to do. I know one of my thing, I wanted to marry Michael Jackson. And I
Right,
think
right.
every I was thought I was his wife, and that I think all the little girls wanted to be Mrs. Michael Jackson, or wanted, because we used to be fighting with each other. No, he's mine, and it was like literally like, girl is mine was like the boy is mine, like,
Right.
trying to do who is going to be Mrs. Michael Jackson. Just picture it, just picture the hysterics, the
Yes.
mania, and people used to call me Mrs. Michael Jackson since I was a little girl, because I
I
was
love
so
that.
in love and so enthralled with him and fascinated with him. They're like, oh, there's little Mrs. Michael Jackson,
I feel
I guess
like
they're probably manifested in a way because
right,
you
right.
really don't really understand the power of manifestation and law of attraction. But it didn't work out that I didn't get to marry Michael because there were too many. I think everybody wanted to marry Michael Jackson and
Right.
wanted to be his girlfriend. And in our heads, we thought he was our husband. And it didn't
Yeah.
matter what age you were, you know, you could have been 5 years old. Oh no, he's still my husband. He'd hear this man. You understand what I'm saying?
I
Because
know.
you have the
I
post.
I
Yeah.
I feel like fans like we all like want to take our claim over Michael. Like, no, he's mine. Like, and
Yes,
so I
yes,
can't imagine what it was like at the height of his popularity, where he's
yes,
everywhere. Like events are happening, music's coming out, like that must have been so like exciting.
yes.
Um so it didn't work out in the 80s, but what happened for you in the 90s?
The 90s, the 90s was during the, oh my God, that would be dangerous. So I was still in school. Michael did not tour here during the Dangerous album because, and during the Dangerous era, he decided to go overseas. Um, but I had, of course, the Dangerous cassette and just watch, the cassette. Okay, I'm dating myself. Okay, but that's what it was, Dangerous cassette, and I don't think CDs was a big thing yet. But I remember going to there was a store called the Wiz, or yes, the Wiz, where you can go
Yes.
and get your the Dangerous album is coming out. You got your allowance money, and you just go. And I was like, I'm gonna get the Danger, and I ran that thing rugged, like to a point where one of my classmates, they were like, I'm gonna borrow it from you. Now I was very particular with loaning out anything Michael Jackson to anyone,
Mm.
but I did. Then something happened to this cassette. The cassette broke. I was like not happy at all.
No, that's a
Like
no-no.
it was a no no. And she was like, I don't know how to tell her because she was like, is she? Her mom said, "Isn't that a hysterical one?" Like because But anyway, so I was still in school. For the Dangerous, and so it was like the during the Dangerous was when also his videos were premiered and featured. It was like a whole big production, like MTV or Fox 5 would debut his videos, like Remember the Time, Black or White. All of this was like a big production. Everyone shut down at like 8 o'clock, was either a Thursday or Friday night. And you're like sitting in front of your television to watch the videos, the premiere of his videos from the Dangerous album. That's how his the Dangerous album was marketed and promoted when he released singles from
Mhm.
the album. So that was then, and it was still during that height of there's still Michael mania going on, and still watching certain. He would make appearances here and there. He was still very let me see, not only the video, not only Dangerous, also the In the Closet video as well. um he what was I gonna say? Dangerous was big, but and then you move after you move into, and that was like the 90s, so that's the early 90s. Then you go into the history album.
Yes.
That's when things really connected, where I was able to meet other fans, because I was still
Yes.
like in a bubble somewhere. There wasn't like, I was still young. I was young enough because I was still in school, like high school or whatnot. um but I didn't know that there was a world of fans out there. So it was not through the 90s during the history album. When the history album came out, that's when I was introduced into the Michael world, per se, like meeting
And
other
I want
fans and connecting with other fans. Because and
I
how
want
that
yes.
happened.
Yeah, like, what was it like? Because just being kind of isolated and just loving Michael on your own versus, like, now connecting with other people that love him must have been, like, such a change, such a shift.
I think it just made it just like, wow, like there's a whole it was like I didn't know there was like a whole movement out there. Because remember, even though I had friends and I was immersed doing other things as well, but having like other like-minded people who shared your affinity for Michael, that was a whole different world. And that did not come into, and then you had, I would say throughout the years, like Fresh Magazine, they would have the pen pal section where you write to pen pals, but it didn't really solidify for me until the History album. Believe it or not, it's to me sounds weird and wild, but that's when it really connected me. And then how it happened, um, the History magazine came out during when Michael debuted his History album. When that came out, it was a magazine called the History magazine. It was a color magazine, was his official
Mhm.
magazine. It was called History, and then we had pen pals. There was a pen pal section. You can connect with other pen pals. But how I was able to meet other Michael fans was, Michael was in New York for the Beacon Theater. He was doing his one night only show at the Beacon Theater in 95. That was 95, I believe. 95 in the winter.
Michael Jackson, one night only. You've never been this close. Sunday, December 10th at 8 p.m. only on HBO.
Unfortunately, that show did not take place because Michael got ill and the show was canceled during that time.
Yes. Now
But Michael was here in New
this
York.
is
Yeah, yeah, Michael was here in New
this is a
York,
story that you've
and he
told
was
me.
yes, he was staying at the Four Seasons Hotel. Mind you, this was like before the internet got really popular, and you just knew, because you used to get little tidbits from Flo Anthony, who had like the E was on E television. If you're familiar with Flo Anthony, she's on Michael Jackson. She's a journalist, but she's also a family friend of Michael and the Jackson Five. So
Yes.
she would
I
always give the gossip and the tidbit. Oh, Michael is in New York, recording for recording his history album, or he's in New York and he's staying at the Four Seasons Hotel, and you will get the gossip from Cindy Adams. And I'm just giving a history here how you would find out that where he was staying. So, being
Yes,
a long
we have
story
to tell
short,
everybody this is
he did
before
not.
the internet, right? Okay,
Yes,
it is,
the internet
right?
wasn't. But yeah, it was the internet had it wasn't a big. It was now making its way, making to the masses per se. So just think about this.
There was no
Everything was
TikTok.
still, no TikTok, no Instagram, no Facebook or anything like that that would tell you this. As either you read the gossip columns, you watch the cable television called ETV, where all the entertainment journalists and reporters would give their scoop on what's going on, and Flo Anthony and all these other, um what's his name? Oh God, there's so many others on BET. You would get the scoop either like from Ed Gordon, because there was big supporters, or Ebony Magazine. This was there was no social media platforms, but you still got information. Well, I found out information because I had that ability and that knack to get the scoop on where he was and what he's doing.
I love
You
it.
know, so just think about this, and no cell phones in sight, you know. Maybe you had a pager, a little pager or something like that. I feel like a dinosaur. I mean, I'm not that old, but I feel like but it just shows the evolution of technology and where we are today. I mean, and this is not, it may seem like a long time, but this was just like yesterday when you think about it. It's just to show you
Yeah,
how the
yeah.
years and time has gone by so quickly.
I was gonna say
Younger
it's good
fans,
for younger
yes,
fans to know,
to
like,
know.
this is how it was, like, right.
So yeah, so it was the History album. I'm going to say that's where I got connected to a Michael world, because I met, again, Michael got sick. He got ill. He was in the hospital for about, I think, 5 days. It was like in the middle of the winter, so it was like cold as hell. And he was at the Beth Israel Hospital on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, and that's where he was staying. So during this period, there were fans out there who were keeping vigils at the hospital and everything like that. And I did not go every day to the hospital because it was too cold. And plus, I had other obligations. I was in school again. So, finals of Michael Jackson, I had to like prioritize, that doesn't mean that I didn't love him any less. It's just that I wasn't out there every day. I think you can understand,
Hey, priorities.
but I got it. Yeah, yeah, priorities, school, but I also I was able to keep in check to see how Michael was doing. And because when he became ill, I was like very, very concerned, like, oh my God, what's going on? And this and the third. Um, and I was hoping to get tickets to the one night only show was again elusive, because you had to get to the fan clubs and all that stuff. But again, that's when I knew how to you begin to know how to navigate the MJ world during that point. Um, and even though there probably were fan clubs, but again, getting that information wasn't always readily available at some point. But to make a long story short, that's when I got introduced into the Michael world because of Michael during the History album, him becoming ill. And why I'm saying this is because that one day I completed my finals. I had like finals going on. And I said, you know what? I want to see him. And after I did my finals, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go straight to the hospital. In December, it was cold. And that's when I met other fans from New York and from other places in the world who were there as well, who kept vigil per se. So they were holding down the fort, who kept vigil. And that's when I was introduced. I was like, oh my God, there's a whole movement out here. And that's how I connected to other friends
Wow.
who from the New York City area, from other areas, and just exchanging phone numbers. And again, the History album, the History magazine was out, and just connecting to MJ fans by writing um, letters to people who were featured in the magazine, to other pen pals. It was like a pen pal section. And that's how I got introduced into the Michael world.
I love that. I was
Yes.
gonna say that it's so interesting to me because going back, I have seen like the different magazines at the little pen pal section and all of that. And um I mean, I grew up in the era of the chat room. So like to me, that was kind of like how I would meet people on like the Michael Jackson AOL chat.
Yes.
But I can't imagine having to like go through the little blurbs where people would be like, "Hi, I'm 24 from this place and I love like Baby Be Mine. Write to me if you're interested in exchanging stories
Yes.
or VHS tapes," right? People used to
Yes. Yes.
exchange
Yes.
memorabilia
Yes. And
too
that
that way,
was like
right?
a whole. Yes, and they had these little things called FBs that somehow went around the world where you could connect, where it was exchange of information where you can connect with other fans throughout the world. So I did not only have fan friends here in the US, but I also made fans with people international. And that's one of the wonderful thing of being a Michael Jackson fan, is that you're exposed to people from so many different cultures and different countries. So it was like a global phenomenon. And that was like the power of Michael and his influence and his impact on the music industry, the landscape. It was the musical landscape, but he was very influential and connected to so many people
Yes.
around the world who shared their love for Mike. So this is how I
I
got into that. And I was
I
like, there's
love
a whole
that.
movement out here. I couldn't believe there was a movement. It was a movement. So I believe everything happens in its due time, you know, in due time. And then I started meeting other people, and, there were different events, just hooking up with people from Delaware, from Pittsburgh, from Michigan, Colorado, California, all over the place. Italy, I had pen pals in Italy, France, and they would share like little pictures with me and posters and flags, and even Holland. And that just opened my, and England, the UK, because and that just opened up my world, like to so many different, to and that's the thing, to that there's these people out there who share the same passion and love for MJ.
Now, I was going to ask you, when you went to the hospital that day, Beth Israel, where he was staying, were you meeting people for
Yes.
the first time there, or were there people that you had like heard of or like written with that you're like, oh, this is you in real life? Or how was that
No,
experience?
this is the that was the first time that I met people. I shouldn't say, I had a friend that I knew, a college friend that also shared her love for Michael Jackson, but we weren't a part of the MJ world. So, um, you know, that was something different. But to know that there were other people, you know, that was like my introduction to meeting other people outside of this one particular friend that I went to school with. Her name was Sean, if I want to say that, but she was a Michael Jackson fan. She loved music and she loved Michael, but that was outside of her. I got in. I think before that, I think she sort of introduced me to places like in the village, like the Record Runner, where you can go and get MJ memorabilia and vinyls. So I would say she probably was my first. She's probably my first MJ friend, but not in the way that I was able to connect to her entire movement per se, you know? So it was like
Right.
when I went to the hospital, when this was the day he was being released from the hospital that I went, I was like, I'm gonna go because I have to see this person. I have to see him somehow, And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it. It's gonna happen. I didn't know how I was gonna see him or meet him, and that day, I was like, after I did my midterms and everything, like my finals, I should say, I was like, I'm going to go to the hospital. And I did. And that's when I met these other people who were out there, who were keeping vigil throughout the day. Like they had like a shift going on. And that's when that was like, I met a person named Yamalet. She had like a room where her room was like a shrine to Michael, and she was featured in the history magazine. So when I saw her, I was like, "Oh, you are the one who are in the history magazine." And I connected with other fans as well throughout that day who was there.
This ad break is dedicated to our Patreon Platinum sponsors. Thank you so much to our sponsor this month, Marlis. You are the best, and I appreciate you. To join and learn more about supporting MJ Fangirl, join our Patreon.
You are meeting Michael or seeing him for the first time. Tell us what
Neither
that was
Mikey.
like.
That was such an amazing experience, and I couldn't believe that. Oh my gosh, this is, even though it was a bittersweet moment seeing him walking out of the hospital from when he was discharged from the hospital at Beth Israel, but to see him walking out with his coat and his fedora, and it was cold, I was just screaming. I lost my mind completely. It was such a magical and mesmerizing experience. And that's when I was like, okay, dreams really do come true. And sometimes you just have to follow your hunch and do something, like, like I could have just said, you know what, I'm not going to see him, or, it's not, but I decided to go. I was like, I'm going to go. I'm going to go after school. I'm going to go. And it was a really cold day, and he walked out of the hospital with his bodyguards. Wayne Nagin was his bodyguard, his chief of security, and Yannick Allen at the time. So to see them walking out with him, and he was walking out all confident, and I was able to get a picture of him, and I was screaming. I was also interviewed by the television stations, which made the news, the 7 o'clock news that day, or 5 o'clock news, or whatever time it was on ABC or throughout the world or whatever it is. I was interviewed because I was just screaming. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't breathe actually. I was just like, oh my gosh. I was like, I just saw Michael Jackson. And we just ran after the van. It was like, you got close enough to the van to see him and to touch him and whatnot. But that was my first experience of seeing him live and in person.
Now I have to ask you because I've
Yes.
seen this clip. I've
Yes.
seen a clip of you out there, right? On the internet.
Yes. Yes. It's on the
Is
internet. It's on the internet. It's surfacing on the internet. Yes.
is that okay to share during this?
You can
Can I
share it. You can
insert a
share
clip?
it. Yes.
I'm so excited. You
Yes.
guys, okay. Reva gave us permission. So check this clip of her out right here at the hospital at Beth
You
Israel.
found it.
Okay, I'm going to insert the clip here. Okay.
And we will have more on Mr. Sinatra, but first we will have a quick look at today's showbuzz.
Michael Jackson beat it out of a New York hospital Tuesday afternoon as about 24 fans shouted their admiration. Jackson was hospitalized last week after collapsing on stage. Doctors say a virus was to blame, forcing the entertainer to cancel a scheduled televised concert over the weekend. The superstar's medical team says he will require bed rest for several more days. His fans, meanwhile, are wishing him the best.
It was a rush. That's all I could say. I felt so good.
All right.
Now, I guess my next question is, okay, so you saw him in person. How was he? Did he interact with the fans? Did he say hi? I was just going to say a lot of fans
Yes.
are very like, you know, when they meet their idols, they're like, are they going to interact with me? Are they going to be nice? How are they going to be these days? How was Michael? I know he was probably very awesome, but I'll let you tell it.
He did interact with his fans that day, and he thanked the fans. He thanked the fans by, I think he did not want to come out in a wheelchair per se, because usually that's a protocol and procedures. When you're leaving the hospital, you should be wheeled out. You should be transported out in a wheelchair when you're being discharged. But he did not want to. He walked out because he wanted the fans to see him well and that he's strong. And he came out and he waved and he gave the peace symbol and he blew kisses to the fans and he smiled at us. And that was his way of showing that thank you for being there. Thank you for the support. Thank you for coming out and just being at the hospital and just being there to wish him well. So he was really happy. He was really excited. I have a picture of that moment because I had my camera at that time when I took a picture of it. I can't find that picture now, but I know I do have it somewhere. He was
Awesome.
very congenial, very warm, very gracious, and he was really happy to see us there. I mean, it was a bittersweet moment, and to see him under such circumstances, you would have preferred to see him, at his show, at his concert that he was going to give, or, and it was not. Hopefully, you didn't want it to be at him leaving the hospital, but that was the way. And I think for most people who were there, some that I met, that was their first time seeing him as well. But he was very congenial. He was very nice, and he was very grateful to us being out there and the
Yeah, I mean,
support.
The support. Yeah, Michael's fans are known for being supportive, like being for him there day and night wherever he's at, right? So, I think it was really cool that he came out and showed the love and support. Now, was there a time during this whole stay, like, is there anything else that you wanted to share with us about this moment? I know you might have some fun memorabilia that you might want to share with us. Can you tell us a
This
little bit about that story?
Okay, during this period when he was at the hospital, this is before he was even admitted to the hospital, and he was and I was still trying to get tickets to the Beacon show. I was still trying to finagle away how to get tickets to the Beacon show, because I was like, where in the world, my friend and I, we knowing that where he was staying at the Four Seasons Hotel, I think we can say this. I'm going to say it. I was able to connect with Michael's chief of security, Wayne, at the time, because they were staying at the Four Seasons. They had a floor there. That's where Michael stayed whenever he was in New York, whenever he was recording his history album, because he recorded, that's where he stayed. And that's where Sony put him up, the record company, put him up at Four Seasons. Michael stayed there. He had a floor, a suite. It was a whole big thing. And I was able to connect with his chief of security, Wayne Nagin. And I spoke to it. I called the Four Seasons and I said, how I connected to him. I said, may I please speak to Wayne Nagin? And they connected me. They patched me through his room. They said, please hold, and they patched me through his room. Now, how this happened, my friend at the time, she made the first phone call, so it was like an introduction to me because I was just like, and she called and she got through to him, and she said, "My friend Reva is a huge Michael Jackson fan, and you know, um, she wants to meet him. She would, I was hopefully to meet him and to go to the show, and I couldn't stop. She really spoke me up to Wayne before, so she had to introduce me to him because she's like, "Where's Michael staying? Who is his chief of security?" Because as a Michael fan, these are key details you need to know. Who is in Michael's camp? You need to
Right.
know these things. I know may sound stalkerish, but no, as a true devoted Michael fan, there's certain key information you do know. You got to know who he worked with, who is on his team, who is. I just happen to know who is his chief of security, and the genuine ingenuity of it all to know, if you call an axe for Michael, it's better to call and you ask for Wayne Nagin. Because, that was probably the better way
Right.
to get to it because the hotel may not have passed. But anyway, for whatever
I
reason,
love
you
that
probably could have
though.
called and
You
asked
were
for
using
Michael.
your
Yeah,
using your
go
resources.
ahead.
You had to make sure that you connected
And
where you could
I
connect.
Yes, and I connected to his chief of security. So my friend, she made Sean. She's I mentioned her name earlier. She's the one who made the introduction for me. So she's like, I'm doing this because she cannot stop talking about Michael, and I want to do this for her. And then she called and she said, he's waiting for your call. And I called him and I spoke to him and he said, yes, Sean called me and she spoke very highly of you. And Wayne said, what can I do for you? And I was like, what? I was like, I would love to go to the show. I would love to be Michael if it's possible. And, there's so much that he can, I know as a security guard, and navigating this for the first time, and all of this was during the time he was here in New York for the Beacon show and while he was at the hospital. So I said, you know what? I had put together a care package for Michael. And I said, I have a care package for Michael. I wanted to get it to him. What do I need to do? And I also have an album, which I'm going to show later. I have it right here that I would like for him to sign. And I had like a letter. I wrote Michael like a 10-page letter. It was a 10-page dissertation that I wrote to Michael. I talked about everything, who I am, introduced myself. I had given him a ball cap from my college. With a college, I gave him, it was a cute little care package I put together for him. And Wayne said, I will do that for you. And he told me what I needed to do. Um, come
I
to the
I
hotel,
just
drop
have to
off your
say,
stuff, leave it. Go ahead.
this is
Yes.
like a
Go
fan's
ahead.
dream come true, like, right? Like getting a care package together for Michael Jackson while he's, doing his thing, talking to the security guard,
Yes.
getting it to him. Like a lot of us that were never like in real contact with Michael Jackson can only dream about those moments. So I just love that you're giving us those details and really like bringing us back to those moments. So yeah, okay. So care package and continue.
The care package and my 10-page dissertation letter to Michael. And the album that I wanted to sign was a single, actually, from his history album, You're Not Alone, a 12-inch single that I wanted him to sign for me. Um, I still was trying to get tickets to the show, but that was not. It was a little tricky. But my Wayne did what he could do for me in terms of getting the care package to Michael, and he told me what to do. He's like, go to come to the Four Seasons, leave it at leave it with the concierge and with the letter, And it was a whole big bag, and I put together this care package with balloons and everything like it. And mind you, I'm a college student, not with a whole lot of, because college students. But I put that together with so much love, with what I have and my letter and the vinyl that I had, that I wanted him to sign. And Wayne made sure that he got it.
That is awesome. And did you ever hear back from Michael on that? Like, how would you know,
Okay.
like, that he actually got it?
He actually got, because you know what, throughout that time, and Michael had got, this was when I got the care package to Michael, because I had to leave it at the desk because Michael was still in rehearsals for the show. So my way of knowing that he got it, Wayne confirmed to me that he did, and I was like, he did get it. And there, I also put a thank you card to Wayne. I wrote a thank you card thanking Wayne for making this possible. Wayne did not even know about that was a card in there for him. I was like, did Michael get the pack? And he said, because I called back to Wayne, and Wayne, I said, did he get the care package? He's like, yes, Michael got it, and he thanks you so much. And I said, did you see the card for you? He's like, there's a card for me from meaning Wayne. I said, yeah. I said, is it Michael's bag? He said he didn't know, because he said, you know what? I just gave the bag to Michael. I was like, you did? You didn't check it? And he's like, no, I just gave it because I trusted you. So then he went back to he said, he didn't go to get the card. Michael gave him the card, because somehow Michael came back later on that night or the next day and gave him the card, because he said, Michael saw the card to Wayne and dropped it off to him at the hotel, at
Wow.
his hotel room. So that's how I knew that he got it, and how I knew the letter that I wrote to Michael, this 10-page letter that I wrote to Michael, how I knew, um and mind you, my vinyl was with him. So he got the package, he got the letter, everything, he got it. And I knew, I believe it, because there's no reason for Wayne to lie or anything to lie, because, there was truth behind it. He said
And
Michael gave him the card. Michael came and gave him the card. He's like, and there's a card for you, Wayne, from her. And it was a
just to be
thank you.
clear, though, I want people to know the timeline. So this is before he actually got admitted to the hospital.
Yes, this was before he got
Okay.
admitted to the hospital.
Okay, so this is all around the same time, you guys. He was rehearsing for this show, the one night only show that never happened at the Beacon Theater, and this is all prior to that, and that's when Reva is talking to the security guard, this chief of staff,
Yes.
Wayne. And so then it's going to connect later on to this Beth Israel Hospital story. Continue.
Yes, yes. So yes. So after I drop off my package, with the balloons and everything like that, and there was a teddy bear that I had given to Michael, and it was a whole big production that I gave, because I guess from even then I was always into going over the above and beyond. But then Michael got ill, so that put like a little damper, a wrench on things, because I wasn't sure that, because I was able to call, and Wayne was so gracious. Wayne never, even though Michael was his charge, he had to be, he had to go to the hospital when Michael was there, and be there. And I would call the hotel. Somehow I probably got forwarded to his phone. I don't know. And he would tell me, like, he's at the hospital, or he would say, during that time, and I was able to leave like a get well card to like for Michael as well, because when Michael got sick, I dropped off a get well card, to Wayne. I made Wayne gave it to him during in the hospital. And Michael was to sign. One of the things that I had in the package was my 12-inch vinyl, the You're Not Alone single, that I wanted Michael to sign for me. So, and Wayne was so good. Mike said Michael was so appreciative of me, because he used to give Michael my messages. And he gave Michael my messages. He's like, this is Reva, this is from Reva, she's calling. And Wayne would tell me, give me updates, thank you for calling, thank you for being so supportive. And he's, he would give me like little tips on how he is, because he knew that I was very concerned about Michael's well-being. And Wayne was very gracious to me. He never was dismissed. This is a very busy man here, so your time talking to Wayne has to be very concise. But he was never really dismissive. He was never dismissive.
Right.
He really appreciated, um, you know, the support, and Michael really did the support. And there was one time, at some point, Michael was so concerned. Like he's like, Michael told Wayne, he said, "Tell Reva I'm gonna get her album signed." That's where I said, "It's okay, I'm fine." I was like, as long as he gets well, and I was like, "Don't worry about." Michael was so concerned about not
Oh.
having to sign my album while he was in the hospital. I was like, "Don't worry about that. I'll get it whenever I get it, whenever you know." And when he came out of
And
the
like,
hospital and he was discharged, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
I was
He
just
was
gonna
discharged.
say,
He knew who I
I
was
cannot
because
even imagine.
Wayne was like,
That
he's
is
like, "I saw you on the television." Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I cannot even imagine. That's so cool that Wayne was able to communicate those things to Michael, and then in turn, Michael, who is the biggest star in the world, is actually concerned about one of his fans. That he really did care about his fans, and so that just like warms my heart to hear that story. But sorry, continue. You were telling us that he was in the hospital. He still had the
Go ahead.
album. He hadn't gotten to sign it, and then what happened?
When he came out of the hospital, I had spoken to Wayne, and Wayne said, he's like, Michael's storm. He's like, it was so funny. He was like, Michael, really thank you for your support and everything. Like, this is when he was discharged, and Wayne was like, I saw you on television and everything like that. Mind you, Wayne, we had not really officially met yet. I know this was just weird, but he's talking to someone, and he's like, "I saw you on television," and he started laughing. He's like, Michael started laughing, and then when I was on the phone at one, he's like, Michael said he will sign the album for you. He's like, he said he was so sorry. I was like, no, he has no need to apologize. He was like, he will sign it for you. Don't worry, because he was concerned. And that conversation, he's like, what, Michael's at the door. Like when I was talking to him, he's like, Michael's at the door. Michael just came at the door. And here I'm like, fangirl, like, oh my God, at his hotel door. And he had to go, and he was like, okay. And then I continued staying in contact with him, and he said, Michael will have it for you ready by X, Y, and Z date. Go and pick it up. And Michael left the vinyl, the signed vinyl. And this is how I know Michael read my letter, because of what he signed. Because whenever I wrote to Michael, I would say "love from my heart" always. And on the signed vinyl, he wrote, "Reva, love Michael Jackson, love from my heart always." And that's how I know he read my 10-page
Wow.
dissertation to him.
That
Yes.
is
And
so
then
amazing. Like, I can't even
then they
imagine.
left me. Yes. Yes. So here you're talking to someone you haven't really officially met. You understand, like, yet, but I was still in contact with Wayne. Like every time they would come, I would say, "How you doing?" Um, and Michael Wayne told me to come. He was like, Michael said, and Michael also signed a signed vinyl for my friend as well, who made this connection possible. And he was like, "Go and pick it up. It's going to be at the concierge at this particular date, this time. This particular date. Go and pick it up." And I went and pick it up at the hotel at the Four Seasons. And when I went to pick it up, the guy, the clerk, the clerk, the concierge staff said, "You are so lucky." That's what he said to me. He's like, so lucky, because he knew that when Michael had did for me, because I went to pick up the signed vinyl
Wow.
in the Four Seasons bag. Michael put it in a Four Seasons bag with a little note, just a note said for Reva and his handwriting.
Wow. Wow!
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just had to scream
Yes.
because I didn't even know that part, you
And I'm
guys,
gonna
and
scroll.
Reva and I have been friends for a while,
Yes.
and I didn't know that part, that
Yes.
he actually wrote the little note. Okay, so sorry, you're gonna do what now? You're gonna
Good.
show us the vinyl?
Yes. You want to see the vinyl?
Yes,
The signed
please,
vinyl?
we need
Yes.
to see it.
Okay. Okay. This is the vinyl.
Picture for them so they can see.
Yes.
I love that, and that's the "You Are Not Alone" vinyl?
Yes.
Wow. And so you've kept that, obviously, I see you have it framed. That's
Framed.
gotta
Yes.
be,
It
like,
is.
such a prized possession.
It is. Yes.
So, I mean, how did you feel when you first got that vinyl? Like, when you looked
I
at that
was
and you saw the
shaking.
signature, wow.
I was shaking because I couldn't believe it. And then what made it possible, what made it even more exciting is when I saw how he ended, when he signed, when he said, "Love from my heart always." That melted my heart because I know he read my letter, because that's how I signed my letters to him. Love from my heart always. So he read my 10-page dissertation. I call it a dissertation because it was 10 pages long.
Wow. I mean, what divine timing though, right? Because Michael Jackson, I'm sure, would have been so busy had he not just been in the
Yes.
hospital. I'm sure he had that as something. He was like, okay, let me look at this letter. Like, just divine timing when it
Because
comes
he
to
had some
that.
time to really, yes. And he read it because I, that was my ending to him, love from my heart always. But for him to reverberate that and to write that back to me, I was like, wow, he really paid attention to what I wrote. Yeah.
That is so cool. And I wanted to ask you because, I mean, thank you, first of all, for sharing this story. This has been so awesome to hear that firsthand account of a
And
fan
this
who
is
was
his
there in the
signature.
trenches out there, like on the news, talking about Michael. Like, and I know you've seen Michael at the 30th anniversary, and I know that you've had other special moments with him, including seeing him at the 30th anniversary and this and that. Like, so much more that we could talk about. But I'm so excited for this story that you shared today because it's about a moment in time that not a lot of people even remember or even might not even know about. A lot of us
Yeah.
have seen that picture of him in that nice coat and the fedora and been like, what is
Yes.
he doing outside? So that brings a lot of background information to this. So I think for now, like, I want to see, like, do you have anything that you would tell a fan who like never got the chance to meet Michael and wanted to know just like how overall the experience was for you, and was it worth it meeting him in person? A lot of people said you shouldn't meet your idols because you never know. But how was your interaction with Michael?
When I really first got to meet him was in um when I realized, like, and I always knew that I was going to meet him someday because I was always manifesting. That's when now I know what manifestation really means. But I was really speaking. I was like, I'm going to meet him someday. I don't know how, when, or where, but I am. But I always knew that I was going to meet him. And I had to. I didn't meet him here. I had to go to Detroit to meet him. So sometimes you have to have a little faith. You have to step out on a limb, step out on faith if you want this particular dream to come true. And that speaks for anything that you want to do in life, what is to meet your favorite artist or to meet a specific person or to any dream that you want. Sometimes you have to step out on faith and just be positive that it will happen. Some, you may have to be specific and intentional. But when I met him was in Detroit. And meeting him, he was in Detroit in 98, when in the summer of 98, in August 3rd, August 4th, he was campaigning with a black businessman who was a billionaire, Don Barden at that time. So he was in Detroit, Michigan, campaigning for, I can't remember the exact proposal. I think it was called Proposal One or Proposition One, which is almost similar to the Proposition One here that we have. Is no, I don't want to say it's similar, but I think it's something along those lines. And I have that little leaflet from that campaign. But what he was doing, he and Don Barton were in Detroit trying to get a casino, have a casino built in Detroit, and an amusement park, a water park, I believe, in Detroit. So he was out and about during that time in Detroit during the summer. He was really active. And again, you have to, like, Michael's not going to come to you. You have to go where he is. Sometimes, you may have to do a little stalking. Not really stalking. You
Just a
know,
little friendly stalk. Never hurt
not
anybody.
really stalk. I don't want to use that word because that has like such a negative connotation. But just friendly. You have to put your dreams into action. You may have to do something on your part. So I was like, you know what? Another friend of mine, two other MJ friends, we were like, she said, he's going to be in Detroit. He's here. Um, we're going out. There was an airline ticket for like 80 something dollars round trip. Now, Trump, that would talk about fate. I was like, 80 something dollars round trip.
$80?
Yes, I'm not joking.
Wow.
But that was flying out of Philadelphia. So we had to take the Amtrak from New York, a cheap, and I was so lucky to get a cheap ticket and this was like an overnight thing. Like you had to think quick and and the thing is, you never know. It's like to meet Michael or to go in to see Michael is like a game of Russian roulette. You're not sure. It's a gamble. You're not sure if you're going to see. And I was thinking, I'm like, what if I go and we don't see him? This will be all for naught and all of it, But I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. And I went ahead, got the airline ticket for 80 something dollars plus, the Amtrak ticket to get to Philadelphia to get the $80 ticket. And I got it, and we flew out to Detroit, and we stayed at the hotel. I can't remember the name of the hotel. One of the hotels. There was two hotels. There's another story, but I don't think I'm going to share that a piece of it. But we found a hotel and X, Y, and Z. So we were out there, and that's when I met Michael, and that's when he signed another memorabilia for me. And that's when I met Michael. He signed my copy of Dance in the Dream for me. I gave it to him, and I'm going to show this. You want me to show it?
Yeah, I would love to.
Okay.
We would love to see it.
This is the Dance in the Dream.
Okay.
First edition.
Yes.
First printing, I should say, yes. And I gave him a specific page to print out.
Oh, I love that.
To sign. And it was this called Courage.
Oh, can you lift it up for us? Wow. That's like I even get the chills, and I don't even know why, because I was not there. It's not my signature, but like I get the chills
This
just
is
thinking
his
about
signature right here. Yes.
that experience.
And that's when he signed it for me. I gave it to him, and that's when I met him. And there's a picture. Oh my gosh, I forgot to bring up the picture that was that I had of me meeting Michael.
There's a photo?
Oh gosh, it's too late now. There's a photo.
Well, you can send it
There's
to
a
me and I
photo
can
that-
insert it.
Yes. There's a photo that appeared on the front page, the front page section of the Detroit Free Press. So there was a photographer who captured that moment unbeknownst to me.
Wow. Talk about fate. Like I love hearing this story because you always hear about people saying like, "Oh, I was around in the 80s and the 90s," and like they were around to experience the stuff on TV, but talking to you and hearing what it was like to like go support Michael during these moments, go and meet him, get his autograph. It's just really heartwarming, and it's so amazing to see that you're still out here supporting Michael. You support the different projects. You've gone to his son Prince Jackson's Thriller Night,
Yes.
supporting that charity cause. So, I just love hearing this story, and I'm sure that people are going to want to have you on again to hear more because I know you have so many more stories.
There's so many more stories. Just being part of the MJ world and also working on his official events as well, and fan club events, and just meeting other fans, and oh my gosh, and creating fundraising projects for his Heal the World Foundation. And there were so many opportunities that I've had, and flying out to London and working at Carnegie Hall when he was. So there's a lot. There's a lot.
I know. I'm just like I'm itching to hear the story. So the more of the stories, and I want to ask people out there if you're watching this, comment down below. Should we have Reva back on next year to talk more about these stories? Because I'm particularly interested in hearing about a lot of the events that you helped organize involving Michael. But I have to say, this has been amazing. Thank you for sharing. I wish that we could have these, like, I wish we could talk on forever about this, but
Yes.
I'm gonna definitely have you back on. Thank you for joining. This has been amazing. I hope you enjoyed, like, sharing your story and reminiscing with us.
Okay, yes. And it was just meeting him for the first time. That's when I know I was going back. That was just a mind blowing experience. And I know we're pressed for time because there's probably some other things I probably wanted to talk about, but it's okay. It's okay. That can come back on at a different time. But just showing how, going after your dreams and meeting Michael was one of my bucket list items, but it was a dream definitely come true. And to for as a young black woman, meeting your idol, your icon, someone that you love and you grew up with, and just letting me know how much your music, because I was able to share that with him, because when I met him and he signed this for me, the Dance of the Dream, in person, because I saw it, he do it, I have a picture of it, and I have pictures from that Detroit meeting as well. And Wayne saw me, and it was a whole big thing. And but I was one thing of meeting Michael. I was able to, in that brief moment, because it was just pandemonium and there was other people there as well. I was able to tell him, "Thank you so much for what you've done, not only for me but for the world." And he gave me the biggest smile, and he smelled so great. Like, he wore this expensive
Oh.
perfume. It smelled like, I believe it was like a musk smell, but I believe that smell was Belle Al Versailles, which we found out years later when he passed away, because I remember that scent. It was like a mixture of baby powder and musk. I know,
Yes!
but
I have that. It smells
yeah,
so good.
yes, and his hair was wet because he is just taking her. I know it's like going all over the place, but
No, I mean, now I'm like, "Okay, continue with this."
sometimes you do have to go after your dreams, and I did. I was able to, I'm glad that I was like, okay, I'm going to meet him. I manifested I will meet him. I didn't know how. Sometimes you don't know how it's going to happen. He wasn't going to come in my house. But I was like, you know what, I'm going to go to Detroit, and I'm glad that I did, because if I didn't, I would have been like, what if? Maybe there might have been another opportunity, I don't know, but I will never forget this particular time. Oh no, I did meet him again. I met him at the Invincible signing, but that's for another talk show. So anyway,
Yes, like I said, I know you have stories for days, and we gotta keep the people on their toes. We gotta give them something to look
yes,
forward to.
yes,
Um, I love this. This is probably gonna be a two-part episode now because you've just shared so much, and I'm gonna insert clips. If you guys are watching, you've already seen. If you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Music, Amazon Music, check the video out on YouTube, because this is where you're gonna see the actual clips and the videos of Reva talking to the news about Michael outside the hospital, as well as the photos of some of her signed memorabilia. This has been a real treat and a great way to round out the end of the year. Thank you for being on, Reva. Thank you for being a friend. You've been a
yes.
friend
Thank
to
you. Yes,
me.
and you have been a friend, a really good friend. One of the things, I was able to meet some really great people because of my fanship for Michael, and I've met a lot of people. Some have filtered out, but there are a few core people in my life, and you've been a good friend to me in so many ways, and been supportive of my projects, and that's a whole nother topic we're going to talk about. But not only just that, but showing you how you're a fan during my most vulnerable times that I've had, that you've been there, just being there for me by either sending flowers or just surprising me with flowers or a fruit basket during some vulnerable times. And um it's not Michael connected us, and you're just one of those few people that I know that I can say is a friend, because there are very that everyone you can consider a genuine friend. And I've
Yes.
been in your home, I have met your daughter, and
Yes.
so yes, so we are friends outside of, yeah.
And yeah, thank you to Michael up above for connecting us. And yeah, I actually just did a video not too long ago talking about, like, how Michael Jackson introduced me to so many important people in my life. So anyway, I know we can go on and on. This is how our phone
Yes,
chats are too. We just go on and on and
yes,
on. But thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. Make sure that you guys are subscribing to the channel,
and
because
then
we're going to
we're
be. Oh, what's that?
This is the MJ the Musical limited edition shirt because that's a whole other topic. But
I love that.
yes,
Yes, and Reba will tell you she's seen MJ the Musical. I've seen it as well. Go
but
see it.
go see it. That's a
Go
whole
see
different.
it. Yes. But thank you, Reba. You were amazing. Thank you so much. And this has been so cool. I hope that you'll come back to the show next year.
Yes, thank you. Have a good one.
Okay, you too.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye.